Ooh, you gon' like what we talking about, yeah. Ooh, so sit back, take a seat, and you gon' have to pardon my peace. Tell me how you like it, I know you excited, you gon' have to pardon my peace. You know we be vibing, all of you invited, we gon' get it pardon my peace. It's where you need to be, we got the latest tea, come get this game for free, yeah. We just speaking the truth, so sit back, take a seat, and you gon' have to pardon my peace.
His recovery went well, and he went back to being a kid. Then COVID hit, and that was another. That is when he was the bubble boy.
Mm. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I turned him into the bubble boy once COVID hit. I did all the early hour shopping. Everybody knew that I had to sell at Sickle because I needed to be in the store before all the customers were coming in. I couldn't be around anybody. Like, give me 12 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck 6. Like,
give me 50 feet.
All of them. All the feet. Because
not F6.
You ain't getting my baby sick. But he did well. And he actually got COVID.
That's very great for his immune system, too.
It was. Parker got COVID. COVID didn't get him.
Exactly.
Because he was fine.
That's how you knew he was
fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But after all of that, Parker didn't have any real crises during that time. But right after, starting in 2022, when he got COVID, after the rest of that year, I think he had 4 crises. So COVID didn't get him, but for whatever the reason, his disease like kicked into overdrive. And it was God sent because that was actually what allowed him to get the transplant. So he wasn't having enough crises before to warrant the recommendation.
Yeah.
Because it is such a hard process.
Right.
It's like everybody doesn't have to get it, because if you're healthy, your organs are healthy, because sickle cell can cause a lot of organ damage.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, it's fine. But by that 3rd crisis, one of his other doctors were like, okay, so I think we should start talking about the transplant.
Mm-hmm.
So we did. And that following year, we went in to get the transplant.
2023. So how did that go? Like, break that down a little bit in detail, because I know you were away from your husband and your youngest son for about 6 weeks?
No, 4 months.
Oh yeah. See, I mean, we was on a prayer line.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, 4 months, and no one could you really be in there.
Mm-mm. So bone marrow transplant isn't a surgery. Everybody always like, so when's the surgery date?
Yeah.
So it says transplant, but since it's bone marrow, there's no surgery to be had.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a bag of cells. Like on your transplant day, they hang a couple of bags of stem cells, and that's it. From the very beginning, the doctor's always like, just so you know, transplant day is very uneventful. Like, everybody comes in here thinking that it's going to be a thing. It's not. It's not. What was a thing was all of the days before transplant day. because that was actually why he had his last crisis. And that was the worst crisis I had ever, his last two. And those were the worst ones I had ever seen because they happened as he came out of anesthesia. So because of how cold it stays in an operation room, and in order to have the transplant, he needed to have a central line placed. So after he got a central line placed, he had a crisis, which was god awful. He was screaming and just, because he's very, for being so young, he's still very stoic. And the mixture of coming out of anesthesia and being in such immense pain was a recipe for disaster. And that was one of that gave me PTSD. And I didn't realize it until the next time he had to go under anesthesia. I had a visceral reaction. Like it was, I didn't even know where it was coming from. But it was that fear that when he comes out of anesthesia again,
he's gonna have another.
I mean, and it happened twice. But thankfully, after that second time, I was aware enough to let the anesthesiologist know, the doctors know, everybody know, like, this ain't a game. We got to make sure that we have things in order and in place so that if something does go wrong when he wakes up, we have it under control. Because those first two times, they didn't realize it was a crisis. They just thought he was having a bad reaction to coming out of anesthesia. So he was in pain from a crisis and they weren't giving him anything, thinking that he just needed to calm down when we needed to give it time. Then on top of that, having sickle cell disease and having so much pain, you build a tolerance to the pain meds. So the amount of medicine, Parker couldn't take morphine because it didn't help him. He was past morphine by the time he was 5. Actually, I think it was before then. But so we switched him to another, we switched him to Dilaudid, and even the amount he needed was higher than hospitals were comfortable giving him. So even after they finally listened to me and said, okay, well, maybe we should give him some medicine for the pain, they gave him like the equivalent to giving me children's Tylenol, like a half a dose of children's Tylenol. It did nothing. And I was livid. And I kept telling them, you need to give him more. You need to give him more. And they were not doing it. And that was in Downey. Woo! Girl. That was rough. That was rough. But we finally made it to City of Hope. And he did his chemo. Because before you do a bone marrow transplant, you have to do chemo so that they can kill all of the bone marrow that you have and replace it. We found a donor in Brazil, which thank you, internet and all that jazz. But because the donor that we got was a better match than anybody that was related to Parker. Me, my husband, we knew when God gave us Declan, we just knew that it was Declan that was going to give him the cure. Nope. I mean, which ended up being okay because removing the bone marrow would have been my whole thing. But yeah, the guy being in Brazil, though, did push back the date several times.
Yeah.
Of the transplant, but just kept getting delayed. And that was soul crushing to me.
Yeah.
But God.
How old did they tell you how old he was?
Yeah, I actually have his whole profile. He was my age.
Really?
Yeah.
It was a guy.
It was a man in Brazil.
And
he was 30.
Was it something with finding the donor? Is it something that they agreed to as well? Like,
Yeah, because to be a donor is hard
it is.
for bone marrow.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of the delay because you get tested and you're just put on the list.
Mm-hmm.
But before it's confirmed, you as the donor have to agree again.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get a bunch of tests done to make sure that you're healthy enough to give the bone marrow.
Right.
So all of those steps were what was delaying the process.
Right.
But thankfully, thank God, it finally went through and it was at the exact right time. I mean, Parker's second birthday was the day after our anniversary,
Mm-hmm.
Thomas and I's anniversary. So like, we'll never forget it.
So what happens to the donor? Like, do they get sick? Like,
No,
nothing happens to them.
It's just kind of, from what I was told, it's painful
Mm-hmm.
to remove the marrow because they have to like kind of crack open your hip. Yeah. So it's being a bone marrow donor is a commitment.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't be one, else I would, because I have a trait I can't.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They really have to open up your hip.
I mean, you're not like, they have to suck it out. Yeah.
Woo!
And it's a lot. Those bags
they're big, huh?
Big, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And you just got replaced with a whole new amount of bone marrow. Cleaned all his dirt out. It's just brand new.
He has a new blood type.
Make me whole again.
He was B positive. I think now he's A negative. Wow. Yeah.
That is so cool. That is really cool.
He's a whole new kid.
And that's what I was gonna ask, because I didn't know. I was like, even I want you to talk about the insurance part of like, of like how much it was. And I say this because one of my friends back home had it, and they would always tell him that he was gonna die. It was like, oh, you're gonna only live till 10. You're gonna live till 14. But he lived till he was like 42, 41.
Wow, that's great.
But and he had it bad, but I don't know if it's that he didn't qualify or he just didn't have the right insurance. And
well, it's new science.
Yeah.
So the transplant, first of all, it's hard to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's hard to go through. The older you are, the less likely it is to take the first time. Because it's a size thing. So your body has to take on this new bone marrow and then start pumping it out. So when you're older and your body is bigger, that's harder.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Chang, hey, Dr. Chang, his newest,
Chang,
which was, God was all through this. Because
Absolutely.
even Dr. Chang, who was his hematologist oncologist in Los Angeles, because his other doctor was in Downey in Los Angeles, he is the pediatric director of the Kaiser Los Angeles Medical Center and the Los Angeles Children's Hospital for hematology oncology for pediatrics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is top-notch doctor to have. And we just happened. I mean, nothing just happens. God
did it.
Gave him to us, and he was absolutely amazing and honest, and he was the greatest doctor that I could have had because he was straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. When I first met him, he didn't have very good bedside manner, but he was very intelligent. And for me, look, be rude, but be good at what you do.
Especially when it comes to my child.
That's my baby.
I can take your rudeness for a temporary amount of time.
That's fine. Just make sure
I can
you handle
things.
Yeah. And he did. He took such good care of Parker the whole time. We just saw him for Parker's 2-year.
That's crazy.
It's been 2 years.
That's insane.
his second year of not having sickle cell.
That's insane. It feels like we were just on the prayer line praying for him.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's so
That
good.
Parker, he had hundreds of people praying for him over
So
him.
many. And I told him every day in
he's
the
so
at City of
blessed.
Hope, I was like, you've had angels all around this country praying for you.
Literally.
And he would genuinely feel
Yeah.
touched
He's never gonna forget that stuff.
ever. But yeah, God was in it all. And that was part of the trouble that I had with my mom, because to me, she talked about it like it needed to be this miraculous healing. Like, if God doesn't take it all away, then he's not done. And I was like, yeah. However, nothing is an accident. I did everything I could to not have a child with sickle cell disease, and I still did. So let's not try to rush to whatever we think this final end is going to be. Maybe God's plan for Parker is to have sickle cell. Like, he was doing well, he was pretty healthy, his crises weren't that bad, they weren't that often. So I would always tell my mom, like, stop telling him that he needs to be fixed or that it needs to go away, because we don't know what God has for him. And God's plan for him may just be for him to be an advocate for sickle cell, or for us to teach people how to live with sickle cell disease and still be healthy and still have a full life. He was small. I knew that God wasn't gonna fail me or him. So I was just like, don't put God in a box.
Yeah, right.
Don't put God in a box. We don't know what he's gonna do. He blessed me with this boy, and I'm going to do my very best to take care of him and do exactly what God tells me to do with my son. And look, I could not have written Parker's story, and it was so much better than I could have even tried, because his process through his bone marrow transplant was stellar. Like, it was nothing but a miracle. Like, he lost his hair eventually, but he didn't lose his eyebrows. And the majority of the complications that can happen didn't touch him. And we were on a floor, like, all the kids that were in the ward were all going through the same thing. We were all in the same bubble. And not all of them were there for sickle cell, but they were all there for some sort of bone marrow cancer treatment. And there was actually a boy, almost man, I think he was 17 or 16, in a few doors down from us, who was getting the transplant for sickle cell. And he had a terrible experience. He actually was released and had to come back while we were still there. And the amount of pain that he was in through his recovery was audible. Sweetest boy. There's a family play. City of Hope is amazing. There's so much stuff for the kids to do. Like, there's a drawing room and like a teen room. And it was so much fun. And so we would see him in there sometimes, and he would always be smiling. He would always be happy. He would always be kind. He was, I mean, my heart would break when I would hear the pain that he was in, and then when I saw him come back. But beautiful black boy. He was the sweetest, and his family was so kind. But he helped me see and appreciate the process that Parker was because I could see and hear every day how much worse it could be.
Ooh.
Nurses would come in and be surprised by him, impressed by Parker, like, wow. And he even, of course, I think you know this because I think we prayed about it. Parker got an infection in his central line, which can be fatal.
Mm-hmm.
His fever went up to 104 for a couple of days. And the doctors were freaking out. They were freaking out because first they couldn't figure out why he had the fever. They tested everything because it takes a while to get the results back to see if there's an infection or bacteria to grow from the line. 2 days. 2 days. He had fevers for 2 days before they even identified that he had an infection in his central line. He was fine. God. Like, absolutely nothing, no one but God. Even the nurses were like, he was just, huh? Like, seriously. Like, but that's what it was. That's how it was. And that was the biggest complication. Didn't last long.
And then even if I recall correctly, you guys were actually able to come home sooner than, you guys didn't have to stay the entire time because he was doing so well.
Mm-hmm.
But they trusted you guys to go home and kind of finish it up there.
Yeah. So the insurance was only going to let us stay at City of Hope for an extended amount of time if we lived more than a certain amount of miles.
Okay.
And we just made the cutoff.
Oh,
like literally,
okay.
If we still lived in the other apartment, in the first apartment that we moved to, we wouldn't have got.
Oh, y'all would have had to stay.
We would have had to come. We would have had to commute.
Oh, okay. Because it was a little closer.
Because it was a little closer. But that's how close we were at the edge of being allowed to stay at City of Hope for the kind of post-op treatment.
Yeah.
Because they stay in the hospital for a certain amount of time, and then City of Hope has a hotel, and they transfer you to the hotel. And the hotel is the
City of Hope.
You have to be. Exactly. And even that hotel, that hotel finished being built 6 months before we got there. If we would have started the process when we originally were supposed to, wouldn't have been done. Wouldn't have been done.
Yeah. I remember you telling me all that stuff. Like, it was just like very strategic.
One thing after the next was just like, okay, God.
Okay, God. I see you.
Okay, God.
Hugging on me.
Okay, exactly.
I see you kissing
on me.
You loving me.
And your son.
Affirming me. Reminding
me to never, ever, ever lose faith in you.
Man, that's such
and now I can sit here today and say that first of all, there has never been anything wrong with Parker. Because he has been perfect, walking in God's destiny for him since the day he was born. And I have turned this experience to the best thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
It changed my
your whole life.
Changed my life. It changed my perspective. And it doesn't have to.
Yep.
And sometimes it doesn't change it for the best.
Right.
But for me, on purpose,
it did.
It changed my life for the better.
You know, it reminds me of, I don't even know if you're going to remember this, but you sent it to me in a voice text. And you thought I was talking about Declan, but I was talking about you. I said, that's bars or something I said, but you said, you know what? So random. I was going into the garage at work. You were like, something about God. How is what you wish people weren't so afraid to tell their testimonies.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. I did think you were talking about that.
I know. I was like, no.
Yes, because God is in the testimony business. God is in the testimony business. And the reason why I said that day is because I was doing my Bible study and I learned that testimony just means do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So it just came to me like, why is there so much shame?
There you go. That's the word.
Why is there so much shame in the church? Why is there so much shame in general
with people?
In general, but especially with believers. Because God is in the testimony business. That's what he does.
Yep.
That's how he works. So if we don't tell our testimonies, if we let our shame keep us from telling what God has done for us and keep us from testifying,
you better talk to him.
What a disservice. What a disservice we're doing to ourselves, because there's so much strength and so much power in being able to say what happened.
Yep.
Honestly. Because once you're able to honestly say what happened, that's when you can honestly say how God stepped in.
Perfect timing. That's all I wanted you to say that. I was waiting. She's like, oh, no, I'm not talking about Declan. I'm talking about you. That was
the perfect timing for God.
And when you sent it, I listened, and it just, I processed it. And it's like, I was like, whoa, something so simple, but super powerful. Because people are ashamed. They're ashamed to share their damaging stories, things about them. They are ashamed. They hide from it out of embarrassment or people judging them or whatever it is. And that is literally where you glorify God.
Exactly.
That is how you make a believer. That is how you save a soul.
Exactly. Everybody's so busy. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, but we posted a little snippet about Job. And the World Wide Web, Beyonce's internet, came for us. Like, death. They wanted to put us on a cross. Like, dang. Y'all are so crazy about Job. But that was thousands of years ago, and you're not even telling your story that's happening today. You're tripping off of whether or not theologians and scholars think that Job was a real blow-by-blow experience versus a parable in a book of parables. But you ain't worried about today's testimony? You mad that Job's testimony may not be 100%, but you're not telling yours. You're telling 0% of yours. How did it work? God is in the testimony business. He does not have anything without the testimonies, because the Bible is testimonies.
I love you so much.
No, because that really irritated me. You know me and my scholarly self. I went and did some
research
digging after I saw those comments. Because if I wanted to, I'm not afraid of being wrong.
Right.
So if I was wrong, I was going to go on and say, you know what, my bad. I read something, but it was wrong.
It was wrong.
No. I went in, I did my digging. I found my peoples. I found the professors and the scholars that all say that this whole idea of Job is debatable. Well, I mean, again, I can be wrong, but I also only need to be right to me. So
I guess when putting it out there, we got to be right for everybody. That's never going to be a thing.
never gonna
because
be a
we're
thing.
human. We're not.
Exactly. Because there was one comment in there that was like, yeah, this is debatable.
Yeah, which is
And
a
I liked
wise
it.
comment.
Yes.
Because I remember we studied it out. And we was like, I was so hurt.
Yes.
I was hurt by it.
Does
Yeah.
sickle cell ever come back?
Not after the transplant. And when I did see Parker's oncologist, he let me know that they're doing gene therapy now. So Parker doesn't have sickle cell in his blood, but he still has it in his genes. So he still has to be careful who he has kids with. But now,
Whoa.
yeah. So he's still going to pass.
Whoa. That's steep. But them genetics is something serious. So he really does have to be careful with that. And I'm sure he will be very responsible in that area. You know, I don't care what your mom says. We're going together.
Exactly.
And I better go before I start to catch feelings for you. Yeah. Because then that's when it gets really hard. You catch feelings and it's like, you can't have kids. Or we can, but and you don't want that. No, you don't want to. You just don't.
And I know I
want to
highly
experience
doubt
that.
Even though, honestly, which is such a blessing, they're doing the gene therapy now. And with gene therapy, it actually edits the sickle cell trait out of your genes. So you no longer have sickle cell and you can no longer pass on sickle cell. Like you literally don't
Swipe clean
at all with gene therapy. Which is
that
what
is
they're
so
doing now
cool.
mostly. Because the technology is pretty new.
That is, I know.
Like
I'm
the
telling you,
CRISPR
these
in
scientists
itself,
be killing it.
Gene therapy is new, and gene therapy is younger than Parker. Because when Parker was born, they were playing with gene therapy in France. And we had already, like, my parents, like, started playing out how we were going to France and he was going to get gene therapy. But time went on. And then, but even, and Parker's first doctor told us it'll probably be about 10 years. He said when Parker was an infant, he said, and it'll probably be about 10 more years. And Parker will be 10 next year. So the science, that's how new the science is.
Oh, that's extremely new.
And the first successful case of gene therapy was just reported last year.
And that means you just don't have it at all. You can't pass it. Parker don't even have to ask his girl if she got it.
But the beautiful part is that if he did
gene therapy
have her child with sickle cell disease, at least now there is. By that point,
it's going to be super popular. Yeah, that it'll. But even in that, is it going to be something that is easy for and accessible for everyone to get?
So that,
or because you didn't talk about the insurance part, you didn't talk about how much it was. Yeah, because everyone does not qualify, and I even say that because of my friend Dawn. Yeah.
So we got a bill from City of Hope for a little copay, like $200. But the bill gave us the entire amount, and City of Hope charged Kaiser. Kaiser. $1.2 million. When I got that envelope and opened it, I was like,
who was paying this?
But him? I sent pictures to everybody. I said,
I was like,
you know how much City of Hope costs? There were so many numbers. It was like $1,142,398.42. Like,
I was like, wait, huh? No wonder people, no wonder everybody can't get that. Everyone doesn't have that type of.
Definitely, I don't have that type of money. But thank God for insurance.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Even insurance, like you still have to have
You have
some
to have
legit
good
insurance. Somebody has to have good insurance, or they're not taking it. You're not getting that. Because even if it was cut in half, 500,000 or 600, that's still a lot of money.
That's what makes me. Look, I went back to John Q. That's like so.
Oh, John.
I would have Denzel Washington in that mud.
So who am I kidnapping?
Exactly.
Look around.
Well, for my
Dang. So that makes my child.
I am not leaving, and I'm holding all of your family members hostage until my son gets. What did he get? He got a heart. Ooh, heart transplant. And that's harder, right? That's more challenging, right? A heart transplant,
It's different because it's a surgery. Like that's an actual surgery.
and you have to have a match.
Yeah, you have to have a match.
So that has to
but
be
the
more
match
challenging.
Doesn't have to be like the bone marrow match. The markers
Mhm.
are different than a regular like organ transplant, or
Right.
blood transplant. So like finding an organ obviously is going to be very hard,
Yeah.
but it's
And then it can only be out for a certain amount of time. It has to
Yeah.
be put in the other person
So
really
it's
fast.
like, it's just such a
It's
different
dangerous.
process.
Yeah.
Because that is like, yeah, it's immediate. You find the organ.
You
put
have
the
to put it.
organ
Yeah. I was like,
with the bone marrow.
you got to
it's
fly that thing.
A long
Yeah.
process.
It's a
They
process.
squeeze the marrow.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as urgent,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
not a surgery. So like
Which is
with
awesome.
a regular transplant, like your friend, you have to take meds your whole life.
She does.
Thomas Parker the third no longer takes.
I remember when I would always see you putting it out with his. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. He went from all of that to like nothing.
Now all he takes is vitamins.
His vitamins, his normal,
Vitamins,
regular vitamins.
regular
It's just, everyday thing.
Him and his brother drank the same thing. And even that was tougher than I realized.
Yeah.
Too, because it was a whole new dynamic between them. And I tell you, as soon as Declan was like, he's healthy. Second child in the house. I'm tearing this stuff up. He was no longer quiet, demure Declan.
Not demure. Oh my
He
God.
was and still is out here to mess stuff up.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
God, what happened?
Declan's
Where
no
did my
more.
little baby go?
No.
He was like, nah, ma.
He's like, my brother's healed. He good.
He's healed. So I'm about to act out.
I'm about to. I'm making up from all those years.
So Declan was honestly like the sweetest, most empathetic.
No, he was.
I don't even know how he knew, but he was.
He knew.
He knew. And he knew what to do. And he was so selfless. And even that would break my heart because I'm like, why I don't want to see my 3-year-old being self-sacrificing because his brother is ill. Like, this is just hard on so many different fronts.
That's a story, girl. There's nothing about your life that's boring.
How's your son doing now?
Great. Oh my gosh. I'll show you. I'm going to post it. Please go check our social media because Parker has so much hair.
I was just about to say, that man went from this to vengeance. I'm like,
that little boy's hair came back with
literally. I was like, Jesus.
So Parker has a full head of long, luscious hair. He joined the track team. He's running. He's swimming. My mom almost cried a couple weeks ago when they were there with them.
I know.
To see Parker just like jumping in the water without a care in the world. Like
that's bomb.
Was just like, this was so amazing.
Oh, wow. I know.
I remember that moment for me. It was just like, because we went to the pool almost every day last time.
I know. And remember when we all went to the beach? Yeah.
and he was in the
It's
water.
like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
And I was,
Yeah,
it
another
was
one of
just-
those huge days.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm so happy for you, Parker. You know you're gonna watch this. This is your episode. Miss Shay loves you, and then you know if you want to play the game, I will play the game with you. I don't like the game. I will play it with you. You gonna remember that too. Mom, Miss Shay said she's gonna play the game. When is she coming over? It's my word, Parker.
Okay, he's done amazing. He's really excelling in playing the piano.
He's great.
Because his doctor said that because of the lack of blood flow, things like that would be really difficult for him.
He's killing it. But you know, we always have to remember doctors are practicing.
And which is why we got to testify, because I'm telling
But God.
all,
But God. But God.
I'm telling all them doctors. Like, okay. Just like when
I've been
just like
listening
when
to
I was
him, but I'd be
pregnant,
like,
and the doctor was like, "You need to induce." I said, okay,
yeah.
I'm not going.
Mm.
And now now they're like, "Oh,
We know our body's
he's
better than
gonna
anybody."
Yeah, blah blah blah. He's not going to be able to start second grade on time. He was there first day of school.
Yeah.
And Parker is so smart that he missed the entire second half of first grade and didn't have to make up anything. He just jumped into second grade.
Yeah, I mean, he's like you. Yeah.
But I mean, all of that, it was all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only way he got to finish first grade because once he got out of the hospital, his first grade teacher, after the school year, came over and did an assessment one-on-one assessment with him and signed him out of first grade. Because God.
Nothing to him but to do it.
Like, who does that?
Don't put restraints on me.
Mrs. Sotella. Hi, Mrs. Sotella. I remember all these people's names. And I'm usually so bad with names, but not these.
Not those names.
Not these names.
Parker
Mrs.
don't be
Sotella
like
was
Snoop
amazing.
Dogg. I want to thank me for being great. Danielle, this was amazing. This was so beautiful. I even learned some new things in this adventure, and there was still I'm sure it's like detail, so much you left out, obviously, but you got to the core of it. And I mean, if anybody has questions, they know where to find you.
Ask.
They know. I
definitely, for the remainder of my days, want to be an advocate for sickle cell.
Yeah.
And just helping
That
people
makes
get through
sense.
it, because it's tough.
Yeah.
It is tough. But all those moms and dads and loved ones of people with sickle cell disease, you are blessed and highly favored, and you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can.
They can. Thank you for sharing that story. I know sometimes that stuff isn't easy to share, but thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. Well, that's all, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you next time. Bye.